Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens for your kind of recap, I guess, of the weekend's results. And unfortunately, I actually made a video 2 weeks ago talking about what a day and what a weekend it was for Leeds United. Unfortunately, I can't spread the same news about this weekend. In terms of results going for us this weekend, it probably, to be honest, couldn't have been much worse. Nottingham Forest obviously winning today 2-0 away at Brentford. Cheers for that, Brentford. Thank you very much, the Bees. They absolutely got stung today, didn't they, I guess? And, of course, West Ham, more importantly, beating Sunderland 3-1 as well, which is 2 wins now on the trot for West Ham. Obviously, Bournemouth managed to get a last-minute win against Liverpool as well. So, yeah, look, that is not particularly ideal. I think that's fair to say. Pretty garbage all round. And for once, actually, I think for the longest time we talked about the idea that Leeds United are getting favourable results. Well, it's just not been the case for the last few weekends, really, at all. It couldn't have been much worse, in truth. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk a bit about the Everton game as well, what's coming up in that, how Leeds United should approach it, what I'm expecting from the game, that sort of thing, the usual preview. And then we'll also get into a bit of talk about Strand Larsen, because the bid that obviously came out on Friday, well, over the weekend, it had been decided about the price point that actually the Leeds United bid was. And actually, it's quite an interesting price point, so we'll talk a bit about that as well. So quite a bit to get into this evening. I hope you're all doing well, as always. And of course, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, does massively help the channel. I keep saying this, but the growth has just been ridiculous recently. And it's because you guys are liking and subscribing and really boosting the channel, because I'm a small channel. It massively helps me. So you can continue to do that as well. That would be fantastic. Gipton White says, poor results today for us. Yeah, mate. Poor results today. And unfortunately, poor results yesterday. And shall we start with the first game in a bit of a chronological order? And we'll start with West Ham, because I think this was the crushing blow of all of them. I did say on the Friday night show, that I felt West Ham got 14 points out of the first, they got 14 points in the first 19 games in the first half of the season. I felt like they were going to get more in the second half of the season. I didn't think they were going to end up on 28 or less points, which I think some people thought. And now we're seeing Leeds United sort of or West Ham sort of get the sort of jump that we expected and the increase in performance levels, and it's back-to-back wins. Obviously, a few months ago, they did back-to-back wins, and then, of course, it sort of crumbled from there. They have got Chelsea up next, and they've got Burnley away, and then I think they've got Man United, so there's not loads of fantastic results for them, of course. The Burnley game aside, the fixtures don't look brilliant for them, but they are starting to put together some performances. I must admit, by the way, as well, with that game, Sunderland, what a joke of a performance from them. And when I saw Xhaka was missing before the game, I thought, oh, this is trouble, because he obviously conducts a lot of what Leeds United try to do. But, yeah, I was slightly concerned going into the game. And obviously, you guys know what I said on Friday night about, as I said, the fact that they're probably going to pick up. And I thought they would beat Sunderland. However, I thought they were going to win in the past, and they haven't done. But they did. Obviously, they were 3-0 up at half-time with a fantastic first-half performance. And really killed the game by half-time, which is not exactly where we want to be in truth. Philip says, all right, you beautiful lot. All right to you, Philip. And obviously, it's everyone in the chat. Matt says, it doesn't really bother me as we still got a gap and playing well. Some online going to meltdown whenever other teams get points. There will be a lot of swings and roundabouts. Yeah, there will, mate. You're absolutely right, and I think that's the important thing. Like what you've got to do, and I think Daniel Farke is really good at this. And I think Leeds United as a team, to be honest, have shown real maturity sort of this season as well. And when we've talked about some of the benefits of Leeds United, actually the maturity of the squad, we've always looked at as a positive. And everybody knows at some point, as we said, West Ham weren't just going to be absolutely horrendous and never win a game for the rest of the season. Yes, they're on good form at this moment in time, and obviously with the FA Cup included, that's 3 wins on the trot for them, and they are looking like they're moving into the right direction. But this was always going to happen. It was never going to be as easy as Leeds United being sort of 8 to 10 points clear the whole time, and these teams were going to start to pick up points. That was just bound to happen, and I think with the quality that West Ham and Forest have got in the squads, again, you were going to see a bit of a sort of reaction at some point, and they were going to start improving at some point. The important thing is, though, as Matt rightly says, is we've still got this 5-point cushion. Obviously, we can get something tomorrow. We can add to that as well. We can maybe get to 6 points, hopefully get back to 8 points. and we can sort of hopefully look in a more positive light. But I get ready, people. Get ready for this, because if we don't win tomorrow and if we lose the game, especially, I know I know how this is going to go online. So we'll try, obviously, on our channel to be sort of, and I know you guys as well, a bit more like this, where we're sort of more rational headed in terms of just going, oh my god, the whole thing's going wrong and we're going to be relegated. Like, we've got to look back at sort of what we've been doing recently, and actually it's still only one loss in 9, one loss since November as well. So we have got to bear that in mind, and I think we've got to understand that this was going to happen at some point. And it doesn't mean that West Ham are the greatest team in the world at this moment in time, but it doesn't mean that they were the worst team in the world when they were losing all these games as well. So I think there's just got to be context applied to everything that we're doing. And as I said, as Matt rightly says, we're still in a good position. Do I disagree that we shouldn't be focusing on the teams? No, I think we should be definitely looking at other teams, and every single team from the day of dawn has looked at what other teams' results are doing. So yes, it could have been much more of a fantastic day today and yesterday had Forest and West Ham not picked up points, and of course Bournemouth. But you know, we genuinely cannot control that. I mean, fundamentally, we can't control anything, but there's nothing we can do, and we've just got to show our spirit and show our quality and go out and do the job on tomorrow in what will be a tricky game for Leeds United. Philip says, I really think we are going to get JCL this window. We will talk about that, mate. And I'm beginning to be a bit more optimistic. Clive says, this is where drawing too many games in that good run makes things nervy. As soon as the teams start to win, it changes the picture. I know what you mean, Clive. I know what you mean. I still think in context, drawing away at Brentford, drawing away at Sunderland, I still think these were good results. I know Forest have gone and won away at Brentford, but I don't dismiss that. And I still look at the route of the season and think that they were positive results for Leeds United. Maybe the Man United game, when you go win the look, could have been better. And we said that after the game. It wasn't like we were filled with joy over a 1-1 draw with Man United. We came on and said, look, it wasn't the worst result in the world, but maybe we could have done better in that. So I think draws have context, of course they do. But yeah, you are right. I mean, it would have been nice to turn some of them. We would have turned some of them draws into wins. As Clive rightly says, we would have been far up the league and still not really worried at all. Sebastian says, let's beat Everton. It will happen more towards the end of the season. The other teams around us will get points on the table. As I said, this was always going to happen. And we talked about this on the channel quite a bit. I never felt it was home and dry at 8 points. And I still don't think it's home and dry now. I think the thing with West Ham and Forest was, in my opinion, was that I always said with Burnley, I look through the Burnley squad and I don't see the quality in there to keep them in the division. Whereas I always felt with West Ham, actually there was a lot of quality in that team. And we talked this on Friday to death, so I don't want to go over it too much. But that's what I felt. I think they've got a lot of good players in that team. We talked to Jared Bowen, Mateus Fernandez, Somerville's, etc. There is quality in the West Ham squad. And I do think they've got enough quality to stay in the league. That doesn't mean they will, but they have got enough quality to stay in the league. And I don't think on a normal season that team would get relegated. And we also said about a month ago on this channel, and maybe I changed my mind slightly on this, but maybe we're going back towards that opinion a bit more, that this year, more than ever, we felt it was going to be a higher points total to stay in the league. Like we had the conversation Friday night, didn't we, where we talked about sort of what points total we're talking for Leeds United to be safe. And a lot of you guys were saying sort of 40 points again, which obviously compared to the previous few years is a lot higher. And I think that's what we're expecting, because I don't think West Ham or Forest are going to be sort of below 30. I think they're probably both going to hit 35. But it's just important, as I said, that Leeds do what they need to do. And it's also important with all this as well, wrapped in. Leeds United are still in a good position, and we've got a lot of good home games still to play. We've still got Forest to play at home, we've still got Sunderland to play at home, we've still got Wolves to play at home, we've still got Burnley to play at home, we've still got Brighton to play at home. And I think there's another one as well that I can't remember off the top of my head. Brentford at home as well. So 6 home games there where Leeds United should be picking up good points in. And at the start of the season, you look at it and go, they're 6 really, really big winnable games for Leeds United. So we win them games and we're absolutely fine. And even if you win 4 of them 6 or 3 of them 6, we should be getting close to home as well. So look, even if we don't win tomorrow, we've got to accept the positives, and as we talked about, getting to that March game against Sunderland at home in a really good position, because then the fixtures turn. They've got a lot of difficult fixtures, we've got a lot of good fixtures, and we should stay up from that point. That is what we always said, and nothing really changes. Yes, as I said, ideally West Ham just continues to lose every single game and we stay up with these. Realistically, that was never going to happen. And as we talked about, I didn't see actually. I thought West Ham would win this weekend. I must admit, I didn't think Forest would as well. But you know, it kind of is what it is. And I also thought that Liverpool would probably get something at Bournemouth as well, which was a bit of a shocker. I think someone just put in the chat though that obviously Crystal Palace are in absolute turmoil at this moment in time. Yeah, a few of you have put in, and I think you're absolutely right on that. I think they're a team that you look at this moment in time and think. Like I even looked at their 11 today, and I didn't think it was sort of sprinkled with quality. I don't think Brennan Johnson is that good of a winger that they've brought in. Mateta obviously wants out, and I still don't think he's the world's best striker anyway, in truth. Adam Wharton's now been sent off, and he's not been playing that well recently as well. Glasner's in a bit of a sort of, he's saying all sorts in the media, it's all a bit chaotic, and that does create an atmosphere that they could go down. The only thing to bear in mind with them, of course, is that they're still 3 points ahead of us. So if we would beat Everton on Monday night or tomorrow, then we can maybe look at Crystal Palace a bit more. But Crystal Palace do play Forest next week as well. I don't know if people know that. So that potentially will be a big game. But we've got Forest in a few weeks, and obviously that will be a huge game for Leeds United. If we can beat Forest at home, which I think with the way we've played at home, we've played 11 at home, we've only lost 2 of them. I think should put us on a good spread, regardless, of course, of where we're at, really. Our home form is key. It is, Miller. You're absolutely right. As long as we get a positive result tomorrow, then I'm happy, and I think we can definitely do that. Yeah, I agree. Clive says, we should be where Fulham are, really. It was 1-0 to them away and 1-0 to us at home, and they've had a poor run. Yeah, no, Fulham are having a really good time of it at the moment, and I think they've obviously got that winning now in the Premier League, and I think Marco Silva's a fantastic coach. I know at one point they went 4 games without winning a game. I think they lost all 4, actually, and it maybe looked like they could be a team that were dragged into it, but they've massively picked up the form, and they've got some really important wins over the line, Clive, and sort of fair play to them, really. Manchester Palace losing at home means that they're on 28 points and certainly catchable, so I won't be focused only on teams currently below us. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I do think that's a fair point. But again, for West Ham to obviously get above them, they've still got to make 8 points upon Crystal Palace as well. How long is left in the transfer window? I believe it shuts. You thought it was shut at the end of January, but I believe it actually shuts the 3rd of February. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's true. Got a feeling it will be done this week, but this is presumably Strand Larsen. Yeah, we will talk about Strand Larsen. Palace getting drawn into it, yeah. They've inquired about Perot, apparently. I feel like that's unlikely, but you might be right. But Forest and West Ham have a very good side. We just have to concentrate on what we need to do. Yeah, exactly. Let's hope Palace gets stuck in the... Let's Palace stick with the current manager. Yeah, well, the Glasner thing is obviously sort of starting to expire now. I think that a lot of it was obviously Glasner's a fantastic manager, but if you look back at all his records everywhere he's been, he's always really, at the end, it's always really gone really wrong for him. Wherever he's been, Frankfurt, I think he's been at a few other clubs, and at the end of it, it's always massively scaled off. And obviously that's what you're seeing at Crystal Palace at this moment. Yeah, I expected West Ham to win, but Brentford losing at home was a surprise. Yeah, I agree, Clive. That's where I was at, mate. I thought Sunderland were awful away from home, and I thought they'd win that. But I also agree that I didn't expect Brentford to not beat Forest either. Ben says, this has been an awful weekend for us so far, hasn't it, mate? Literally the worst results. Yeah, I know, mate. And as I said, I feel like we've got 2 sections of the fan base. I think we've got, 3 sections. We've got one side of it that go, oh, no one cares about any of the results. We all care about is Leeds United, which is probably not really true, because truthfully, we want them to lose as much as we want us to win, almost. Not quite, but almost. And then we've got the side of the fan base who think we're going to get relegated because everyone's starting to pick up. And then we've sort of got probably a lot of us lot who are just going, well, that's not ideal, but it doesn't mean that it's completely over yet, and it also doesn't mean that it was going to be as easy as maybe it now was, if that makes sense. But you are right, Ben. It's not been ideal. Glasner is a good manager despite the situation. If he leaves, it's not an attractive job, and they could end up with a poor manager. Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting the appointment they get. Matt says it's Palace versus Forest next week. Yes, it is. You are right. But yeah, truthfully, that's the segment regarding the results. There's not much you can say, really. It's just not ideal. Nothing we could do about it. But, you know, these teams were going to improve. But, yeah, difficult, really. Ben says we've gone from being safe and relaxed to stressing, looking over our shoulders. I'll be happy with the draw tomorrow at 10. Everton will want 3 points after our last game. I think, yeah, Everton sort of have got quite a nice run coming up. I think they've got 4 pretty good games, and they're looking at the 4 period of games thinking if they could get maybe 3 wins in that or something, then maybe they can push on. So obviously for them, it'll be a massive game. And when we talk about Everton, because we'll do that now, they have got quite a few players back for this one, Everton. They've got, obviously, Ilman and Dye back, who's a massive player for me. For me, Ilman and Dye is their best player. I think Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, who's been fantastic since John Everton is back. Obviously, Grealish is missing, but I think Brantwaite might return as well. So we're not particularly catching Everton at a good time, in truth. The only thing to bear in mind with Everton, I think people are not quite aware of this, maybe some of you guys are, but they're actually not particularly great at home. They've only won 1 of the last 5 at home, and they've played some pretty poor sides in that point. They've even played the likes of Wolves in that time at home. So look, there's a possibility Leeds United can get something tomorrow, and I think it's very plausible. I mean, as I said, we've only lost 1, and it was in the 100th minute recently. So obviously, this is a really sort of a game I think Leeds United can target. I think it's a game Leeds United get points in. But I do also agree that I actually think if we come out tomorrow, I know the results have gone how they have this weekend. But again, I think if you get a point at the Hill Dickinson, I think it's quite a good result personally. I think based on where they are, I think obviously I don't think Everton will quite have enough for Europe, but I think they're probably going to be that way inclined as opposed to in a relegation fight. So they're a good side, and I think when you're playing these good sides away from home, you just got to try beat them at home and draw with them away. And obviously if we can draw tomorrow, that's what we'll have done with Everton. We'll have beat them at home on the first game of the season, and then we'll have drawn away. And I think that's something we've probably just got to target. And it kind of is how it is with that, really. Easy. Nice seeing you in the chat, mate. I haven't seen you for a while. West Ham only have 12 games in which they have to do better than us because it will take 3 games to catch us. West Ham are going down. Yeah, I think. Look, you've said I think easy for a while that West Ham are going down, and I sort of rate you because obviously your stick with opinion was I think a lot of people have gone, oh my god, they're the worst team in the world, and then all of a sudden they're the best team in the world because they win 2 games. Well, not really. So I understand that, and I think that's probably the truth of the matter in it. Like they could, if they get trounced down at Chelsea, which could happen today. Chelsea have looked pretty decent since Rossini's come in, of course. Then, of course, the picture might change again. If we somehow get something against Arsenal, who've not been on the greatest run as well, and get something against Everton, maybe we can make the gap good again. So, you know, that's all to bear. There's lots to play for. There is. And there's a lot of football to be played as well. Ernie says, think we will be 1 point clear after the next 6. But the last 10 games are more favourable us, and I still feel good. Yeah, Ernie, that's a really good point, mate. And I think that's what people have got to bear in mind. Obviously, that if this gap starts to close, people will get concerned. We know what Leeds United are like. We know how our fan base is like. And we know what Leeds United have done to us in the past to create this sort of feeling that we have as Leeds United fans. So this is all true. I can agree with you. But in the same respect, I think it's important that we do know. We said on this channel, as you know, Brady, because I think you've watched for a while, mate, but that... It's that game in it against Sunderland at home that's the start of March, and we've said if we can get into them last 10 games and we're still outside the relegation zone, we should stay up because we have got much more favourable fixtures than West Ham. The only thing with West Ham has always been the fact that we play on the final game of the season, and obviously when you play on the final game of the season, they could technically make up 3 points depending on how the goal difference look, but definitely make up 2 points. So realistically, if if we lose tomorrow and it's 5 points, then we only need one game where they win and we lose, and we're going to the final game, and it's anyone's call. So yeah, I think that's why we're all a bit worried, and we obviously know what Leeds United have done in the past, and I think that obviously naturally scars people. As long as we keep our goal difference, then we have 6 points cushion. For me, feels okay. The points spread out in the Prem this year is mind-boggling to me, though. 9 points between us and 4th. Yeah, I know it is, mate. The truth of the matter is it's been a drawing league. There's been drawings all over. It's been draws all the time. And I know Leeds United have obviously picked up a lot of draws as well, as we're all aware. What have we drawn 5 of our last 9 games or whatever it is. So Leeds United are drawing, but that's not just a Leeds United thing. That's a league thing. Everybody's beating everybody, and truthfully, everyone's drawing with everyone, because actually the standard, I think you've got sort of Aston Villa, Man City, and obviously and Arsenal, who are your best teams in the division. And then I think everyone else from about sort of the 4th team downwards, anyone can beat anyone really outside of probably Wolves and Burnley. And I think that is the league this season. I think it makes just a really competitive league. And that's credit to the likes of us and Sunderland coming up and actually being competitive in comparison to what we've seen from the sort of promoted teams in the past, really. People need to realise that we play West Ham on the last day, and they only need to be yeah, I just covered that, mate. Ben says 6 point cushion, assuming we draw tomorrow, lol. Yeah, exactly. And a 6 point cushion again, we'd have took this, wouldn't we? We would have took this. Clive says you can't keep saying a point is a good result. We have to win games. We're still in trouble because we've drawn too many. Disagree with that, Clive. I disagree, mate. As I said, the games we've got draws in recently have not been bad draws in my opinion. Like we've drawn at Anfield recently. You can't say that's a bad draw. And actually, to be fair, you're saying we're drawing too much. Well, we won last week. We literally beat Fulham last week. So, you know, I think that's slightly harsh, I must admit. You know, and as I said, context. I know the weekend has gone how it's gone, and I know Forest have won, and I know West Ham have won. But if them two had lost, we'd have all said a point's a really good result. And I know that obviously bears footing with what we're saying about Leeds. Of course it does. But in the same respect, just if you look at that game in isolation on its own, Leeds going away to Everton at the start of the season, we'd have said, take a draw there. That's what we've all said. So I think we've got to stick to that. And we're not in a position where we have to just win every game. We're not like West Ham where we're 6 points adrift. We've still got this 6 point gap. Obviously, we've got a 5 point gap. If we win tomorrow, or we draw tomorrow, we've got a 6 point gap. I don't think we're in the panic that we need to win every game. I don't think we're there yet, in truth. So I still look at it tomorrow, and I know people are going to be unhappy if we've dropped, obviously lost 2 points this weekend, and that's fair enough. But actually, I still do think a draw tomorrow isn't the worst result in the world, if I'm being honest. And also, as well, we might sign Strand Larsen, and that'd, I think, give us all a boost as well. We put the perennial January hoodoo to bed so far. I think I'm positive. I'm quite confident that we'll be safe by the last games as Gipton White. Yeah, I don't know if I am, mate, in truth, if I'm being totally honest. Liverpool are awful, says Miller. Yeah, they are. So many teams have been poor this season. Even the top 3 haven't been great. Yeah, potentially, mate. I think in terms of points totals and what the top 2, 3 are getting, I still don't think it's miles off what teams have been doing in the past, in truth. People were in what's going on behind us. They should be looking forward to what we will be for me. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I think the thing is, mate, is that with this, and I know I've seen this a lot, Danny, where people go, oh, yeah, but let's look at the next steps. Truthfully, I'm not that bothered about being that much. I know, look, I'd love to finish as high as possible, of course I do, but the main game is just stay in the league this year. So no, even if we were in 13th, I probably wouldn't be looking at Europe. I'd still be looking at make sure we don't go down, because yes, Europe would be brilliant and stuff like that, but realistically, we're not going to get Europe now. We're miles off it. So actually, us jumping up a bit, it's just making sure this gap is as much as possible to these bottom teams. But hopefully, if you, with what you're saying, if we can get into the next pack, which we seem like we're always like a 3 points away from, but if we can win tomorrow, get into that next pack, get on the same points as Crystal Palace and Spurs, I think that would give the fan base a boost, because we're not just like on our own in a little sort of dogfight with Forest and sort of West Ham. We're in a different sort of element and in that different pack. So that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Yeah, a draw isn't 2 points lost. It's keeping 2 points from the team, which is a huge difference. Difference down the line. Yeah, I agree. I think a point's a good result tomorrow, unless obviously we throw it away like the. Look, if we're winning 2-0 in the 90th minute and we draw 2-2, we can come on here after and criticise it. Of course we can. But going into the game, we've still got to understand that that is a good position to be in. Easy says the league is a high standard this season. That's why it's so close. You're absolutely right, Easy. You're absolutely right. The bottom teams, I think, are better this year. I don't think the top teams are as good as they have been in the past, but the bottom teams are definitely better, for sure. Sebastian says, do you have a positive feeling about the match against Arsenal next week? I do, mate, actually. I do. I think Arsenal are in a bit of a mess at the moment, really. They haven't won in 3 now. They are looking a bit nervous. We know what this Arsenal team have done in the past in terms of sort of like throwing games away and quote-unquote bottling it, even though I don't really like that word, but throwing it away in the past at times of this year. So I think if at any point this season, if you want to play Arsenal, it's probably right now. So yeah, I'm hoping Biel's back for that one if he is. And then I think we can really push on from there, potentially. But I think it's probably going to be one step too early for Biol. But that does mean, of course, we're back for Forest, which is obviously the most important game. We're closer to the top 12 than we are to the bottom 3. No, I get this, Danny, and I understand what you're saying, mate. But let's be honest, we're not worried about... If we finish 13th or 15th come the end of the season, I'm not give a toss, really. It's just about, obviously, avoiding to be in the bottom 3. Ben says, let's be honest, though, West Ham have shaken us because no one expected them to grab back-to-back wins. But it's in our hands, so we need to focus on what we can do. Exactly, mate, exactly. And I think as well, Ben, it's because of as I said, it's because of the back-to-back wins. If it was like, if they'd have won one of them, do you remember them good 4 games when they had Fulham, Wolves, Brighton and Nottingham Forest, them sort of that 4-game spell. If they'd have won just one of them and then they'd have won maybe yesterday, I think everyone would be a bit calmer. But it's because, of course, that they've constantly been losing and now they feel like they've picked up a bit. And you've obviously got the likes of Jared Bowen coming out and saying, oh, we're back and all this sort of crap. So we'll see, because they've won 2 games in the past and then, as I said, they didn't win for another 2 months after. So let's just wait and see with them, really. If they go to Chelsea and win, though, next week, I might be seriously worried, I must admit. I'd take a point, but we're taking all 3 tomorrow, says Philip. I hope so, mate. Clive says thinks it's lower standard. I don't think it is, mate. I really don't. Sebastian says stack back for set pieces is a massive. I know, and then the other thing with Stack being back as well is he's defending set pieces, because actually Everton are quite good at set pieces. Obviously, they've got a lot of powerful players in there. You look at sort of Tarkowski at the back, who's probably one of the best set piece headers of the ball in the league. And I think we need as much height as possible tomorrow. And we know we're going to be losing a big presence defensively in Biol in the sort of the middle of the centre back. So we need that extra height just in terms of defending our own box. And obviously Stack being in there is huge for that, because he obviously, I know he takes our set pieces, but actually in defending set pieces, obviously he's in the box defending them for us. So that's massively important. I think that's a huge miss when he's gone, and it's nice to have him back, really. Especially, more importantly, for this Everton game, more than any other game, really. Rogers says, I don't care, Leeds have a game in hand and the gap is closing. All these jaws have given us false hope. I disagree, mate. I just disagree. Sebastian says, that's if he plays him, he'll definitely play him, I think. People saying a point is a good result, but other teams have beaten Liverpool and were celebrating 2 draws. What do we have to be no negative? Do we really have to be so negative? Arsenal will be there. Doubt run of form against Leeds. Arsenal will end their dour run of form against Leeds. Oh, positive. Are we negative? Is that where we're at? Like, we're not doing that badly, are we? Like, we've lost one of our last 9, lads. Like, come on. Blooming heck. Anyway, let's talk about something more positive then, because obviously, look, the results didn't go for us, and I understand why people are sort of saying what they're at. But I think going back and criticising results that we've already said are good results in the past seems a bit harsh, in my opinion. But that's just me. Anyway, let's move on and talk about this Strand Larsen thing. Not because there's been a new bid, there hasn't been a new bid, but there has been clarification over the weekend around about the price of this bid that we've made. And apparently, from a lot of outlets, quite a lot on the Wolves side and a few things on the Leeds side, the bid was 33 million plus 6 million in add-ons. Now, my initial reaction to this is kind of higher than I thought it was going to be. I've got to be honest. I thought when we were bidding, the first bid would be in around the £30 million mark. So it's probably a bit ahead of where I thought we're at. And actually, if you sort of looking at it like on a context wise, I actually think this is quite a positive for Leeds United. I think the fact that we're at 39 million already makes me much more feeling that this actually will happen, because I don't think we're far off. If this is true, and we've sort of set towards a total package of 39 million pounds, the reports going in are about the sort of Wolves want around the 40 million pound mark. So obviously 39 million pounds, you're nearly there. Yes, of course, I think the payment structure will be favourable to Leeds United. I think it will be paid over a long period of time, because we know Leeds United are struggling with the PSR climate. Of course we are. But all that being said, I do think that this is I do think with this particular deal that we are getting close to this deal being done. And I actually think Leeds United, the reason they put a bid in that's so ambitious is because I think they think that the situations could change with football clubs later in the January transfer window, and I think they're wondering that this deal could fall apart if a Crystal Palace sell Mateta, if an Everton decide that they want to sort of, I know they've been linked to sort of Wilson Isidore at Sunderland, but maybe they change their mind, might go for Strand Larsen. I think that's something to bear in mind with this, with the sort of Strand Larsen deal. And I said, I do think we are moving much closer to a sort of a buy of Strand Larsen, and as I said, I'm getting a bit more confident with this, I must admit. I think the only question going into it is sort of where's this money coming from, because one thing I have said on this channel, and I still want to stick by this regardless of sort of what people are saying, and I know people will be really happy about the signing, but I am slightly concerned if we're going to end up paying £40 million for Strand Larsen, not in an obligation to buy. Because if it's not an obligation to buy, that means we're going to have to balance the books somehow. And that means obviously sales. I think Pro are obviously going to leave the door in January, which I still think might happen if we do bring Strand Larsen in. But we're still, even if Pro leaves, you're probably looking at maybe 10 million quid there. And I think you're still going to look at maybe trying to get £30 million more in. And that is a lot to raise. And everyone goes, oh, you can just sell before sort of June the 30th, and that is true. That's when you got the time to balance the books. But everybody's not daft, and other teams know we're going to need to sell at that point. And if teams know you need to sell, then you get crap fees for it. And my worry is that we're going to put ourselves in a bit of a situation here if this deal isn't right for us and isn't in the structure of the deal isn't in the correct way for Leeds United, where, as I said, we're going to have to start raising maybe £30 million in the summer transfer window before the shutting of the window. And if Leeds United have got to do that, we're going to lose players on the cheap. So get ready for that, because that is something that you're going to have to swallow, because you can't negotiate when your hands tied behind your back, because everybody knows you've got to sell. So that is the only thing that I'm slightly concerned about this deal. I wanted to do it, and I still probably would do it with these terms, to be fair. But I am slightly concerned that we are going to end up losing players on the cheap in the summer, because everybody knows we're going to have to sell before this deadline. So I think we've got to bear that in mind. 2 draws against the champions and people are still moaning. I know, mate. I know. Wonder if West Ham's results will have an effect on the board's frame in reminds of the JSR transfer. Many felt we were safe before this and maybe been hesitant to spend 40 million. Potentially, mate. I don't think our board worked like that, if I'm being totally honest. I think when you've seen our board throughout time, and I think we've got enough of a sample size of this Leeds United board now to know that the way they operate is that they'd like to. This Leeds United board like to sort of make out that they're very sort of calm with the decision making. They hate coming across emotional and reactionary. That is what they absolutely hate. And if you listen to sort of Prague when he talks about the best traits of Daniel Farke, that is what he likes in Daniel Farke. He likes his calmness. He likes how lack of emotion that he shows in games and how sort of concentrated on the plan. He doesn't get distracted by alternative things. And I think that's what the board like to pride themselves on. So I don't think West Ham winning 2 games will massively change what's happening in our boardroom, if I'm being honest. Felix says Forest, West Ham winning, and so Scum and Chelsea as well on top of it. Awful weekend for football. Time to follow the club. Mate, it's been a bad weekend, hasn't it? It's been a bad weekend. Basically, this season we'll see higher points in the bottom 4 than previous seasons. That's why some fans are scared. 35 won't be enough this time. Yeah, to be honest, Cobra, this on Friday, as I said on the channel, we talked about sort of where the points would be this season, and to be honest, everyone that put in the chat all said that sort of it was going to be nearly 40 points, and it might be this season, and I do believe that, and it would be a Leeds United way. I mean, how Leeds United is it for Leeds United to go down with the highest points that it's been in the last sort of decade or something ridiculous? We know that happened with the Championship, of course, when we got 90 points and didn't get promoted. So it would be very Leedsy for that to happen again. Tarkowski will try and do a job on DCL tomorrow. Yeah, and I think I reckon the fans will probably get stuck into him tomorrow as well, but I might be wrong. Good morning to everyone as well, says Cobra. No worries, mate. You just sharing an opinion. That's not a problem at all. Easy says, I think Strand Larsen is a smoke screen for a different player we want. Probably not a striker. Interesting, mate. I don't think that's true. I think the fact we've bidded suggests that we are going for him. Mark says, we aren't playing great and a few teams get results and it's all doom and gloom. Or we are playing great and a few teams get few results and it's doom and gloom. West Ham will be pleased because Forest won't be pleased because Forest won today and they're back to square one. Yeah, in a roundabout way, mate. But obviously, if we don't win, then they've closed the gap on us a bit. I think it gets done this week, says Philip. Yeah, potentially, mate. We are covering bases of opinions, can be negative or positive, certainly subjective. But I feel they shouldn't be dismissive, just accept an opinion. Okay. Perot will not go, simple as. He's made it perfectly clear that he won't because go down to Championship. He'd rather wait for a chance on the bench. That is true, Ben. You are right. And I'll tell you, the reason I keep saying that Perot will leave is if we get Strand Larsen. If we do not sign Strand Larsen or sign a striker, they will not sell Perot. Perot will not leave the football club. But Perot's feeling at this moment in time is, I'm third choice, but in front of me, you've got Nemecha and DCL, 2 injury-prone strikers who could get injured at any point, and then he gets his chance in the Premier League. If Strand Larsen comes in as well, he will then become 4th choice striker, and I think his outlook, personally, will be different. So I know what you're saying, and I don't. In the current climate, he won't go. But if Leeds United bring another striker in and he goes to 4th choice, naturally the situation's changed, and that's why I think he would then move on. Fulham have just offered 32 million for Pepe, refused by PSG, but negotiations ongoing. Maybe they will look at Pro as a possible replacement. I don't think they will. I don't think they'll go for Pro, mate. Easy says Pro is a great finisher and we won't sell him in January. Well, as I said, Pro won't go unless we bring a striker in. But if we bring a striker in, I bet you any money Pro goes. But I might be wrong. And to be honest, if we bring in a striker and he's 4th choice, we should be selling Pro. Let's be frank with this, in my opinion, because he just doesn't fit the system. It's not a thing against him and all that. That's obviously he's trying to get himself back into the team, and fair enough in a roundabout way. But I don't know. I kind of worry about that a bit. Agent says Blackpool and Birmingham went down with 39 points in the same season. Yeah, well there you are, and I think, and we thought it for a while, and it's not just because Leeds United are involved with scrap that we think it. Like if you think sort of logically, with sort of the teams that are going to go down, if a team goes down this year, it's probably going to be maybe Palace, but realistically, maybe Leeds, maybe Forest, or maybe West Ham. They're probably teams that are in it at this moment. And I think all them teams, if you look through the squads, is not that bad. And I think all them teams are obviously playing quite well at this moment in time, and we're not seeing the same repetitive patterns at times that we saw from last year with Leicester, Ipswich, and of course Southampton. I think all them teams are better than them. So I just think on that basis they're going to get more points. Was the 90 points trophy real or just a cagey, cynical comment? No, I'm not saying it was a trophy. What's happened, mate? What's going wrong with you? Are we all okay? I was just making the point that we got 90 points and still found a way to not get promoted. And get maybe this season there's a situation where we get 40 points, and in any normal season that keeps us up. But maybe this season, because of the other teams being better, we end up not. We could end up going down with a 40 points total. Marx's Palace and Spurs are shocking. Yeah, they are. They are at this moment. But look, I think we're heading towards changes in managers for them two clubs, in my opinion. And I do think they will probably pick up when that happens. Hopefully not. And we can keep dragging them more and more into it because, of course, that's what we want to do here. But, you know, I think that's the situation. Sebastian says, what about Tottenham? Despite the quality they have, they are really poor. Yeah, they are, but I think we're heading to, as I said, I think we're heading towards a Thomas Frank sacking. So I know what you mean, and Tottenham are one of the worst teams in the league at this moment in time, and I wasn't surprised that West Ham beat them. And I actually think, objectively, with how good we've been at home, that 2-1 loss at home to Spurs that we had is probably objectively one of our worst results of the season, genuinely, because of how bad Spurs are. I don't think they were quite in the level of bad moment that they are now, what they were when we played them, in truth. So I think that's something to bear in mind with it. But I do think that objectively, as I said, to how good we've been at home, that is one of our worst results of the season, that Tottenham loss. It really is, because they look so bad at the moment. They can't buy a win, can they? Ollie says, what are your thoughts on a long-term solution for a keeper? Well, I think obviously this will be something for the summer, but I would imagine that the board, either Perry gets back in at some point, which I don't think he will now. I think he'll stick with Darlow for the rest of the season, if I mean, unless obviously something like an injury happens to him. And I think then you expect in the summer that Leeds United can go and get a new goalkeeper, is where I'm at. I don't think Farke fancies him. I think it's obvious with his actions that he don't fancy him. He was really quick to criticise him, which we know has been different even this season to other players, the likes of Aronson, etc. So I do honestly think that Farke probably didn't want him, and I do think we're looking at a situation with Perry where he won't get back into the team for the rest of the season, and they'll hopefully will look to move him on in the summer maybe, but it'll be hard because of course it'll be trying to get a suitable fee that means we don't take a PSR hit on the books. Gomez and what we bought Perry for £16 million. Is he on a 4-year deal? So that's £4 million each year. So this summer we'd have to sell him for £12 million to not bank a loss, which I think is going to be tricky to get that money, if I'm being honest. Gomez says Spurs February fixtures tough. They could be below us before the start of March. They could be, mate. They could be, and I've seen that their fixtures are absolutely awful, aren't they? Do you not think they're heading towards a manager sacking though as well? And I think that will obviously improve them. Although to be honest, you look through. I was talking to my brother and my dad about this today. You look through the Spurs squad. I don't think it's that good a squad. I think we expect Spurs to be better than they are because they're called Spurs and because they've been deemed in this top 6 crap for the longest period of time. I think they've got good players. I think Van der Ven's a good centre half. I think Romero's quite a good centre half. I don't think they've got abundance of quality though. When your top striker is Richarlison, top scorer this season Richarlison, and you've got Odegaard on your wing, I don't think that's a team littered with quality, in my personal opinion. I don't really think it is. And I don't think Thomas Frank's as bad as we're seeing at Spurs. And I think that's part of it is because people expect better from that Spurs squad, which they shouldn't be doing because the Spurs squad just isn't that good. Need 4 wins, in my opinion. Okay, so that would give us 4 more wins is 12 points. We're on 25 now, so that'd be 37. Yeah, maybe it's 4 wins and 3 draws and you're getting 40. And you should be all right with 40, really. You should be all right. Andy says it's the squad strength of West Ham and Forest that makes it scary. Would have felt a lot more confident if it was Sunderland below us. That is exactly the point, Andy. I completely agree with you. If it was a team that we felt like we were at the start of the season, they would be right down there and they'd be one of the teams that gets relegated, I don't think we'd be anywhere near as worried. I think if Burnley were on even if Burnley were on 22 points right now, only 3 points behind us, I'm still not as concerned about Burnley as I would be about West Ham. And people might go, that's ridiculous, but as you said, it's because of the squad strength that we know West Ham and Forest have. Like I look through that West Ham team and the Forest team, and there is real match winners in there. You got, as I said, West Ham, you've got Jared Bowen, you've got Mateus Fernandes, you've got Crescencio Somerville, you've got Paquetá, I don't know if he's going to leave, but them players can do stuff. At Forest, you've got like Morgan Gibbs-White, you've got Elliot Anderson. There's quality in both teams, and I think that's what naturally worries people, mate. And I think you're absolutely bang on. Whereas I think if it was Sunderland down there, we'd be nowhere near as worried. I just couldn't agree more. That's exactly how I feel. Easy says Perry will come back in. He's a good keeper and it's his first season in the Premier League, so give the guy a chance. I know what you're saying, Easy, and if I felt like I could see something in his performance levels, then I would agree with you. The issue I've got with Perry is I don't see him getting any better. I think if you look at how he reacts to certain situations, and for me, when I watch him, I don't see a keeper that's going to improve there. I don't see his kicking technique is that bad. I don't see that improving massively. I just think he's not possessed on a sort of athletical basis to be able to kick a football well. Like some people, I can't kick a football well because obviously I'm not a professional footballer. I'm not that standard. And I look at Perry, and obviously his kicking's only part of being a goalkeeper, but it looks so bad that I don't think that's ever going to massively improve. I also look at his frame for a keeper, and again, I don't think that frame works the keeper. I think you look around the leagues and look at keepers. Perry has a different frame to all of them. He's got a much bigger build than the rest of the keepers, and I think he struggles to get down low to chances because of his build. I think the same with Onana at Man United. I thought he had the same sort of build that was a problem to him as well. So I just, with Perry, I don't see it improving. I could be wrong, but I don't see it improving, which is why I would look at moving him on. Certain players we've seen in the squad where you go, oh, it's not quite working for him, but maybe it could start to pay off for him. Like as I said, even with Okafor, and I know Okafor gets slammed a lot, and I've slammed him on the channel at times as well because I don't think his end product's been good enough recently at all. But I still see, like, when he gets the ball, he still offers something, in my opinion, and he sort of like makes stuff happen, even though it's not quite happening for him. And I could see a progression plan with him, with Okafor, in my opinion. I just don't see the same with Perry, and that's kind of where I'm at with him, and that's kind of why I'd probably move him on in the summer, if I'm being honest. Agent says, Everton have 9 league titles, Tottenham have 2, Sky Sports top 6 must be paid on advance. Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. I know what you mean. And also, why are Villa not in the top 6 then, by that logic? Do you know what I mean? Long-term keeper Melier, I wouldn't pay him in washers. He'll be a waste of time with PSR. Yeah, Melier's not going to come back in. So I've got a mate who is a Spurs season ticket holder. He says it's as bad as he's ever known it down there. Yeah, apparently it's absolutely awful, and they can't stand Thomas Frank. And when we talk about how teams with good squads get relegated, Spurs do have that. They just have a lot. They just have, for me, far too much quality to go down. I know I've just criticised the level of squad, but it's in comparison to what we're expecting from Spurs because of one of these top 6 clubs. But I don't think they'll go down. I really don't. Gomez says, yeah, but what manager currently available? I heard Jamie O'Hara on TalkSport mention Harry Redknapp on the other night. That's desperate. Yeah, it is. And I saw he was linked to West Ham a few weeks back as well, wasn't he? Sebastian says, let's go get Larsen latest. Yeah, no, I agree. Let's go sign Larsen. 96 in here, everyone could smash a like. Yeah, there is quite a lot in here tonight, so if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I am a small channel, and as I talked about, the support recently has been off the scale good. It's the biggest I've ever seen these streams. We've done these streams at Monday, 8 PM every single day, on pretty much every single day for 4 or 5 months now, and it's just growing and growing every single day, and at this moment it's absolutely flying. So if you could help it, people have been liking and subscribing in massive numbers recently, and it's really been helping the channel because I'm a smaller channel. So it goes, wow, this guy's an up and coming channel, he's got his interactions through the roof, let's push him and push him and push him, and more Leeds United fans get to see it, and the channel grows. So if you could help me with that, it would be really, really appreciated. 4 wins is doable. When you said it like 37 points, not 47. 4 wins is doable, mate. Yeah, 4 wins is doable. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up the show there, everybody. We have been going for 41 minutes, and I am getting quite warm. It's boiling in my room, and also I'm conscious I don't want to run on too much. We had Richarlison when Everton were in a relegation fight, needed a last day victory. Yeah, I thought you were in it. I thought you were an Everton fan, mate. Spurs remind me of us in 2003, 2004. Hopefully, mate, because if that's the case, then they'll end up going down. Anyway, thanks all for watching, as always. And as I said, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It is free, of course. It does massive up the channel, of course. And if you're watching after the fact, if you could hype the video as well, that apparently is a massive thing for me. I don't know too much about hyping, but apparently it is. And also, as I said, we have been talking now for 41 minutes and 47 seconds. So if you've just joined or if you've lost in the last 10 minutes, there's another half an hour of Leeds United chat for you to enjoy if you do enjoy this sort of stuff. So you can just skip it back and then listen to the rest of it where we talk all about sort of, I can't remember what we talked about, all the fixtures and stuff this weekend, but it's just Leeds United chat in truth. So if you want to do that, more than welcome to it. But other than that, I shall see you all tomorrow. Obviously, we won't be an 8 PM stream tomorrow because Leeds United are playing at 8 PM, but we will have the instant match reaction as well to get into. So I hope to see you guys all there. Other than that, I will see you all later, everybody. Bye for now. Bye for now. And thanks for watching. Bye for now.